Welcome back to the Balanced Business Formula podcast. I am super excited to have you here. Today, I have a special guest. And if you know me, been listening for a while, you know I don't usually have guests on my show, at least not the last few months. So I'm super excited because today I have Barb Davids with me, who is amazing. I cannot wait for us to get deep down into the work that she does, but she specializes in working with service providers who are trying to increase their search visibility for their website. And don't we all? So that we can get more traffic and leads consistently. So I am super excited to have her because she makes it so easy for us to understand. And unlike sometimes you find online so much information, you're like, so what do I exactly have to do here? Barb's is your girl. So Barb's, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Rosemary. I'm so honored to be here, especially if you have very few guests. That's very cool. So I thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, basically how you got into the work that you do and who you help?
Yes. So Compass Digital Strategies, and I got started in about 2018 or 2019. I started my business. I've actually been in the field of digital marketing for a lot of years. I worked in corporate, and basically I just got sick of that crap and everybody lying. And so my business was to help people through transparency, through integrity. It was really annoying well, I guess I should step back. That's what it's evolved into, right? I wanted to start my own business technically to be able to work anytime, anywhere and be able to, visit family and friends and be able to be free basically, but still make a living and help people at the same time.
Yeah.
And what I found when I was hiring people like me in corporate, they just wouldn't share information. It was kind of like everything was a secret or like everything was super hard. And I just felt like that was a bunch of crap. And I was like, it's not a secret. There's so much information on the internet. There's nothing you can't find. And it's really not so difficult. It's just a little confusing because there is so much information. And sometimes it's not narrowed down to true things. I feel like sometimes in marketing, and I get that I'm in marketing, so I'm saying this interestingly enough about my own industry, but I feel like sometimes they put this extra urgency on, or if you don't do this, you won't get that. And I just don't subscribe to that at all. I don't feel like it's an all or nothing type of thing. So when
Yeah.
I was building out my business, and it's evolved over the years, I just feel like transparency and integrity are such a big deal, especially now with AI. I mean, there's a lot of whole nother layer to that as well. But I feel like that marketing doesn't have to be as hard or as icky or as messy or as misunderstood as some people make it out to be.
Oh my God, love that so much. And you've said a few of my personal values, which is integrity. You also mentioned freedom in the beginning, authenticity. And what you said for the marketing world is the same for the coaching world. So I feel like that also a lot where I'm like, there's so much going on that I disagree with and
Yeah.
the pressure you talked about. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Cool. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about the type of people that come to see you because you've been working in the digital world for many years, but now you kind of specialize. What would you say you're specializing in? I gave a little hint in the beginning, but in your own words, how would you describe your work and the people you work with?
It is service-based, online service-based business owners typically. They're usually in business for about 3 to 5 years. They know who they're targeting, they know their business, they know their market, they know their offerings, but they're having some trouble getting some visibility to their website or getting traffic to their website. So I mainly deal with organic search, and it doesn't necessarily mean just Google, but ways that organically people can find their website. So that way it's without paid ads. Now, that
Mhm.
said, I do feel like paid ads have a place in a overall marketing strategy, but I do really like the idea of organic visibility because it's so much more sustainable. And you can turn on paid ads for like helping while you're getting your organic going, but the second you turn off the paid ads, the second the leads stop. And so I
Yeah.
feel like having the organic visibility is a longer term solution. And it's kind of nice because it's kind of how AI works too. So when you do organic search in the traditional sense with Google, you tend to be already set a little bit for AI search. So if you do things organically, it's almost like a foundation so that no matter what changes in the industry the tools, the platforms, the things, if you're coming up organically, then your foundation is pretty set. Like it's like out there. So
When people think about organic visibility online, being found, your website and all that, we think about SEO. And I know that when people think about SEO, they're like, oh my God, too much work. That's something that I need to work on. I just don't have time. I don't know when. So when you talk about your work and being found organically via Google, but just in general, we're talking about SEO as well. And how does that come in? Is it about writing blogs and all of that? Tell us a little bit more about that, your approach.
yep. So I'll start with the not having time is generally because either we don't want to work on it because it's just really overwhelming, or we don't know where to start, and or we're afraid to outsource it because we don't know what we're talking about. So we don't know who to actually work with. So I would encourage people saying if they don't have time to think about why they think they don't have time, because it's really just a mask for something else. Because in our businesses, if we don't market or don't have the time to do marketing functions, then how is anybody going to find us, right? So it's just like maybe it's that part of the business that just feels icky because you're just not comfortable with it potentially. So, because I think that some people are like, yeah, I don't want to do it because it's not something I'm really passionate about. Well, you don't have to be passionate about marketing. You only have to be passionate about what you offer. Like let the marketing do the other things. Like figure out a way to market your business that does feel good, and maybe it's not SEO. I mean, we're going to talk about SEO today, but maybe it's not SEO. That's what I always push too. Like this is not the only way to market your business. There's
Yeah.
so many different ways. But like I said, this is just more organic and more sustainable. So you did ask me a question about what was the second part of the question?
So your approach to this, because when people think about organic visibility, they're thinking SEO. And you mentioned it's one part of the puzzle, but it's not the entire thing. So, can we talk about what is the whole
Yes.
thing, basically? Yeah.
Yes. So SEO, it's search engine optimization. It's basically optimizing your website so that it can be found in search engines like Google, like Bing, and now like ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude and those things. It's basically optimizing your site so that the websites can see it technically. That's one way to look at it. So you're looking at maybe the URLs, you're looking at making sure it can actually read it. So all of these tools go and scan your website. And if it can't see what's on the page, or if it's confusing to the tool, because it reads it different than we do, it sees the code behind. So if it's seeing some different words, like if you're making, this is the biggest one, I think, probably. Everybody always really loves to have very pretty verbiage on their headings and their subheadings, and that's great. But people aren't searching those words. Like, I'm trying to think of an example, like, I can't pull one off the top of my head, but if you don't have the words that people are actually searching for in those headings, then your website will not come up. So that's like a big thing that I think people forget about. And it's really hard because you want things to land when people land on the page and to connect with them in a certain way. But the search engines see it differently. So you need to have that foundation that they can actually see your website.
Yeah.
That's just the first foundational piece of it. And then, yeah, the blogs. I think if I were to distill everything down for SEO and AI SEO, it comes down to making sure everything's clear and technically sound and having blog posts. Now, there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff around that, but you can't just have one page and expect Google to show your website. So if I only had my homepage and service pages, and you only had your homepage and service pages and no other pages, there's no context outside of that minimal amount, and it's just not enough because there are so many other things that other people that come up in the search that are sharing their expertise and their authority and getting out there and doing the different things that all contribute to SEO, that then Google is more likely to rank their website over yours. So
Yeah.
if it's not part of your strategy, that's fine, but it's just not enough to say to Google or whoever, like, oh, this person, they know digital strategy, they know SEO, they know business coaching. Like, the more that you can give them, the better. That's not the only thing to
Yeah. Yeah.
start. Yeah.
I love that. And I want to go back a little bit about, you mentioned in the beginning that if people are not doing this because they are overwhelmed or they're thinking that's just not part of my strategy. I just don't feel passionate about it. And you mentioned it's not about, well, you don't have a choice, kind of. If you're in business and you want to be found, this is what you need to do, or this is part of what you need to do. And you mentioned the overwhelm. And maybe, when I look at my audience and clients I've worked with, often it's when we get overwhelmed is because we don't know what to do. And so it's like, I'll just figure it out later. And that's even finding the right person. But in your experience, what do you think are the reasons why people keep putting this off or just don't, they just put their about page, the services, and that's it. And there's like, I have a website now.
I think some of it is education. I think that some people just don't understand how organic works and that it needs more pages. I think sometimes when we do blog posts, it happens to be that we're afraid to put our opinion out there or we're afraid that it's going to look like everybody else's. For me, it's been perfectionism and procrastination. So I'm always like in planning stage and like, yes, I need to make it so perfect before it goes out. And that's not the case either. I think the overwhelm comes sometimes too with too many ideas. So maybe it's like you just don't know which one to pick. And the idea of making the wrong decision is agonizing when in fact, there's nothing you can do wrong in SEO. Like literally just put out every single blog post and then revise it if you want to, like just to get it done and get past that initial hump and that initial overwhelm of it.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because procrastination definitely, and just like that perfectionism, a lot of people also think that, oh, if I have to write blogs, then what am I, a blogger? I thought blogging was dead. And the same people often that would say, I don't have time, this is too complicated,
Yeah.
will spend hours trying to figure out TikTok and Instagram reels and, who knows what other platform that is out there. So it's definitely, yeah, getting the understanding that in order for you to be found, you just have to have more than just a few pages on your website and the opinions that you're sharing out there in different formats. Why not invest that same effort onto your website as well?
Yeah.
Would love to talk about how people are getting found not only through Google, but also through AI like ChatGPT, Claude, and all of that. And even now, I think when people are looking for someone, or something, they might actually ask, Claude and ChatGPT first, like, hey, I'm looking for a bookkeeper. Can you recommend one in my region, or Perplexity or whatever? So that shift that is happening, can you talk a little bit more about that and make it maybe less overwhelming, less technical? Because I think a lot of people are thinking, yeah, we've heard that, but how does that actually work? Does that work the same way?
So basically, what's happening, well, first, it's still very personalized. So no matter who's searching, the results are going to be personalized to that person. You can search for the exact same phrase as me, and we will get two different results, no matter what, because we have different intentions, potentially. We also have a different, like, history in our searches and things that we're doing. So it's very possible. And we're in different physical locations. So depending on the phrase too, that might make a difference because proximity sometimes comes into play, not always. But like all of the essential SEO standard stuff, if you ever Google any of that to figure out what that is, that's the base for AI search. So basically the difference is that people don't maybe hear enough about is that AI search has to get the content from somewhere. So AI is using Google and Bing somewhat in how they recommend your business in AI search to see if your business comes up. So
Yeah.
that's like one piece I think that people forget. The other piece of it is that if your website doesn't answer the question that somebody's asking and you don't have a page for that, then your blog post can't get ranked. So what if they're like in the informational stage and you're trying to get more visibility around something that's maybe they're thinking about your service, but they're asking a question that's not quite super related to it. If you don't have content in that area and somebody else does, the AI tool is going to recommend the other person. The old way is Google would only show one page at a time, right? In the search results, it would just show you one page. So every page has to have some topic. You can't put 50 topics on one page and expect it to rank in Google.
Mm.
AI, it's a little bit different, but at the same time, It's looking for the answer in your website somewhere. So if you don't have that information, then it's not going to recommend your business.
Yeah.
The other piece of it is it's using it. If you're ranking in Google, there have been reports. Now, this is so new. Even all of the reports sometimes don't always agree. So sometimes it depends on who's doing the report. So the tools are going to report differently than people in the industry. But so far, this is why I always say I have a little disclaimer over my head, a little splat, because everything could change like tomorrow. But so far, AI, whether or not it recommends you, your SEO foundational has to be good. But also, if you're already ranking in Google and Bing, you have a better chance at showing up in AI, because if Google and Bing trust you, the AI tools probably trust you. So that's kind of where that changes. And some of the tools do use recommendations more from other websites. So if your website is cited more than your competitor, say on Reddit, inside of socials, inside of listicles, these top 10 lists, things like that, it's possible it will look at your site as a little bit more credible than those businesses who aren't listed in those types of things.
Yeah. Okay, I think by this time, if you're listening or watching this, you're convinced. You're like, okay, Barb, I get it. I need to put more work onto my website, more than just an about page and services. I need to get into blogging and not just talk about random things, but the things that my audience is actually looking for, answering the questions they have. First start. Okay, they're ready, they're leaning in. Where do we start?
It starts by answering questions that your clients have. And this is not new. I'm sure everybody's heard this already. And it's basically that simple. Like literally, if you haven't done a blog yet, then answer the questions that people are asking, like in your discovery calls, in your one-to-one client calls, things of that nature. And then after that, you can use Google, you can use AI for that and just say, hey, this is my audience. What are they agonizing over during the day? Like, what's a day-to-day moment that they're having in their business, in their life, whatever the service is that you offer, and say what's going on around that? What might they be asking? The other thing is you can write around questions. This is a favorite of mine. So it's called tangential content. So the idea to get more website visibility is to write on topics to try to get in front of more people. And by doing that, you have to think about, well, what is my audience? Like, let's say I have small business owners, and they don't always, maybe aren't always looking for my core topic, or I need new ways to find and get at new people, because there's not only one way that everybody searches, right? They do it in different ways. So a tangential content is another way to get in front of people. Death Wish Coffee, I love this example so much. So they sell coffee, but they did an article about whether or not to drink coffee before a workout. So what that did was allowed them, because then they had this great workout. And when people are thinking, should I drink coffee before a workout? They actually talked more about the workout and used the coffee as a sort of intro, or like how it affects the workout. So they were able to not just get in front of coffee lovers, but coffee lovers who are also fitness fanatics. So it was like another subset of who they're getting at.
Yeah, that's such a great tip. The audience is just not looking for that one thing all the time. They are human beings who do other things. And so, yeah, love that. Any other things that you'd like to share on, we get started? So the answering the questions, the general ones, then going on Google to maybe figure out, okay, what keeps them up at night? What are they worried about? Other things. And then the last tip you gave.
Yeah, I think another tip would be, if you're still looking for content, the other fun one that I think is when you go on Google and you're typing in some of your core service and offerings, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a people also asked area, and then you can answer those questions. You can even go into Perplexity yourself,
Yeah.
and or Perplexity is good because it's actually a browser versus a tool. So it presents information differently than Claude or ChatGPT. And so what it does is you can put in your main question, and then it's going to, after giving the results, it's going to give you suggestions of more questions. Those are questions that you can also answer in your content, because they know that it's probably the next question somebody asks. So if you can already answer that, it's probably going to look more favorable to those AI tools.
I love that. Okay, we have enough things to get started, so
Yeah.
let's just not sleep on this. And my next question would be, what do you think people get wrong? But now we have, the tips are like, okay, yes, this weekend I'm going to get going on this. This is what I'm going to sink my teeth into. What are some of the mistakes that you see that people, small businesses make when they sit down to try and fix this?
I I think it's probably adding keywords or questions multiple times is probably the biggest one I've seen. So they'll try to make them rank. Like they'll, and by that I mean if there's a phrase that they're saying on the blog post and they're answering, they try to put it everywhere on their entire website instead of just the one page. And I think that's probably the misconception that one keyword or one search phrase be mentioned multiple times. Yes, like 2 or 3 times in a normal blog post, but it shouldn't be over mentioned throughout the entire website. Just saying the words more on your website doesn't make Google rank you more.
I can totally see that happening. I think people, when they think about, blogging or just writing SEO, they're thinking, oh, keywords heavy. I need to be smart about it. I need to be strategic. And that's where you fall flat on your face because you're drowning everything, actually. Just be natural. Just be a human being, normal person,
Yeah.
I guess. Anything else that anticipate they'll make or that you've seen happening with people that came to you and said, this is what I was doing. Why is it that I'm not being found online? What am I doing wrong?
A lot of it is context of the page. So they're trying to answer the questions, but they're not fully answering them in their blog post. It's very surface level information. So it's almost like they're afraid to tell the real answer. But if they could tell the real answer from their experience and put in specific things that they know, it actually helps the reader connect more, but it also gives Google the idea that you have unique content. So I think if people could put some more of themselves into their content and just get to the point, for goodness sake. There's so many people out there that put in these 10-mile long intros, and those just really put people off, I think. That, like, if you're not answering the question, you can still answer the question and give a whole lot of information afterwards, but the other piece is the call to action. Because at the end of every blog post, you want to give the person the one next step of what to do next. Because if you give them 5 options, they won't do any of them.
Yeah, love this. So tell us about how someone can work with you. Basically, yeah, you gave us tips to do that at home, and we're definitely going to get started this weekend. But many of us are going to get overwhelmed and probably do it wrong and just don't have time to be investing so much in it. They're like, okay, yeah, sure, I want to understand how to do this, but I'd rather have an expert help me with this. Tell us about how you actually help us with this.
So the best way is to reach out to me through my website, compassdigitalstrategies.com. I'm happy to help there. I also would highly recommend my newsletter because that has information in it and also workshops and presentations that I give. And it talks about my podcast, Small Business Marketing Sweet Spot. And there's a lot of free information that I give just to get started so they can know whether or not this is what they're looking for their marketing strategy. And then I'm over on Instagram. If you want to get to know me personally, I share a lot of, self-amusing things. and my dog. I share a lot about my dog over there too.
I love that. Before I let you go, I want to ask you if there's one thing that someone could do this weekend to really get ahead and try to work on their visibility, especially, working on their website. What would you say?
The very simplest and the very actually fun way to do this is to go to Google. Type in site : and your domain name. So for example, I would do SITE : compassdigitalstrategies.com. And then when you do that and you hit enter, you're going to get a list of all of the pages that Google can see. And you're going to be able to see the page title and the description. And those two are very important to have really honed in. And I bet there's probably going to be a good portion of people that when they pull up their website, their homepage is just going to say home instead of their service or their main line. And that's one way that they could easily just quickly do things. And then if they change a couple of those things, they can see if their ranking would even increase. That's a whole nother conversation. But basically, that's probably like the whole easiest, simplest thing you could do in like literally a half an hour. Pick a couple pages, change it, and then see what happens.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we have so much to work with. And that simple thing that you just gave a tip, I'm pretty sure that it's going to make a huge difference.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much. If you have any special gifts for our listeners today, feel free to share it. If you don't, that's totally fine. That's in case you had a freebie or something. Because you mentioned your newsletter, but I don't know if you have a freebie that people could download or easily
Actually,
find. So
you want me to say that now?
yeah, so then I'll say, I know that you have a special gift for our listeners here today. Could you tell us a little bit more about what it is and where they can find it?
Yes, absolutely. It's compassdigitalstrategies.com/instant blog planner with dashes.
Mhm.
So 3 words. I should probably make that shorter.
I will
Um,
link it below. I will link it below.
it's a it's an instant blog planner, and basically it's a helpful way to figure out how to find content and actually plan out your blogs and get you over the hump of trying to figure out what to blog about. And it's written in a way that you can do it on your own without AI, but it gives you AI help if you choose to use that tool. And normally it's 147 for that. So I'm going to give it to your listeners for free with the code Rosemary.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yay. Thank you so much for this gift. If you sit on this, ladies, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. Get going this weekend, start working on it, and definitely use our free gift. Barbs, thank you so much for joining us for this insightful conversation. And I cannot wait for our listeners to dive into this.
Well, thank you for this. I really appreciate you.